coming back to you with this season 2 of episode 13 entitled MP Only Mistakes. I've been under the weather for a few days. I can actually get food down now. Unfortunately, I'm a little nauseous from it, and it's kind of going through me quick, if you know what I mean. But anyway, let's on to the show. As you see, I'm got Evolve on again. Recently re-downloaded because I did buy the digital of it last year when it was on, when they had the super sale, and you could clearly buy everything Evolve had to have outside of a lot of its DLC for like $20 in total. Multiplayer only games besides Evolve and games like Brink, you know, from last gen, or Titanfall, the first one, not the second one, but the first one, and even the very first Section 8, not the downloadable title, Section 8 Prejudice, these are all multiplayer only type games. And I bring Evolve because Evolve is the first of the new games that really wanted to bring you this multiplayer only idea. If you look back at the game and its focus, and you can see that Turtle Rock Studios, who also made the Left 4 Dead series, and 2K, who published them and helped finance the game for them, they really believed in the strength of two really big things in this game. The first of all, well, probably like three. First of all, Sheer, the planet, which has sensibilities where it feels both very natural in its design, the environments and the maps. Like everything is where you feel like it should be. It feels both alien and hostile at the same time. There's some reminiscence of something like you would almost find this on our own planet Earth. And so there's that familiarity, and that's very difficult to capture. But the second thing they really focused in was the hunters themselves. Now, there was 4 to start. Now there's a bunch in there now that they've added. And in some ways, these characters are aesthetically pleasing. They're all different in their own way. All the support classes, all the assault classes, yes, they all have a singular role, but their weapons are different, and how you use them and what you do with them all feel slightly different from each other. Not enough to really totally differentiate from that, but enough where like the monsters all feel very, very different from one another. And the first thing that they were trying to, that the big thing for them was the gameplay. There's no real campaign per se. If you play this 5, it says campaign, but it's not really a campaign. The game sets up with a wonderful, awesome cinema in the beginning, but then it kind of goes wherever from after that. There's not a whole lot to it. And even though you've come to evacuate the planet, every map you go to, the fight one of the creatures, the Kraken or the Gorgon or whoever you're fighting, monster-wise, whether it's a bot or a person, you know, you'll go to some of these places that are like, you can see where people live there. You'll see places where that they built to, you know, to survive or to live in, like homes and things like that. But they're empty already. So either everyone is dead, and there's no carnage anywhere, so you have to assume they've already evac'd. And again, this is all this assumption thing, because you have to do this because you kind of have to make up your own story in your own head as you play Evolve. I've always held Evolve up very high, though, for its aesthetics, and it's an asymmetrical shooter, and I love those shooters. I still play Brink on the 360. I still play it. It's crazy. No one's online playing it, obviously, but I still play it. I still play Evolve. I was playing about 2 hours worth today, still ranking up, still leveling up offline, because I never liked playing online to begin with this game. Everyone uses the Wraith. We know how that goes, and there you have it. Or your hunter teammates, they're worthless and don't do anything other than run off and do their own thing. They don't heal you, or they I don't know, people just, you think they would understand that their characters have a role, but that's another argument for another time. But when you're making a multiplayer only thing, there's lots of things that you can do to make a lot of mistakes. And out of all these multiplayer online games only, that featured very little in the way of story or very little this or that, you have to have your gameplay has to be rock solid. And I'm not talking about a game like Destiny or The Crew, which is online only too, but the Crew has these leveling aspects, and it does have a story, and it is told, and it's kind of Fast and Furious like. Destiny has it's what they call a story, even though it's, we all know about Destiny's story, but there's cinemas and there's things, and it's more of an MMO. Where Evolve is not an MMO at all. It is a first-person shooter where one person controls the monster, and 4 people control bots, and it's basically a 1-on-4 kind of scenario. Or you can play against bots. And the biggest problem that Evolve did outside of these other games, even Titanfall, the original, is that they really banked on the strength of the design of their hunters, the environment, and monsters included with that, and its gameplay. The problem, though, is that the gameplay is very much structured in a way to where you have to work together no matter what. There's only really one way to play the game, and that's the truth of the matter. And even though they made a bunch of mistakes by like talking about, hey, we're going to have DLC. Yeah, you're going to have DLC before the game even launches. You're already talking about all this DLC. And there was more DLC in this game to download than I've seen in any other game. You also included not 1, but 2 season passes, which is insane. And you charged $15 for a monster that wasn't included in either season pass. Again, insane. Just some of the decisions that Turtle Rock made or 2K made, or they both and combined, was the most bonehead thing I think any game company out there has done in their decision-making process. But I digress. See, multiplayer online-only games, you have to really have something going for it. Because a lot of these games don't really have a campaign per se. They have something that's like a pseudo-campaign, And other than getting tidbits of information, like before you load into the screen, like your hunters jump out of the ship to start a match, like, Slim, you found out, he's referred to as a basilisk wraith, and you also found out that he has like a 10 million bounty on his head. But they never really say much ever that. Like, why does he have a bounty? What's going on there? You find out these little bitty tidbits of information, and it'd been really cool. Had Evolve, instead of being this type of game, it should have been like a first-person Monster Hunter style game. And I love Monster Hunter and Touhoudan Kiwami and God Eater 2, and Touhoudan 2 is coming out. I'm real excited for that. But this could have been that. Like, you killed, because there's other monsters. If you ever play this game and set the other wildlife on high, you run into so many different types of creatures and other things that are just as deadly as a stage 1 or stage 2 monster in the game, if not on that same level. And it would have been cool if you do occasionally get like a perk from them. It would have been cool if you like blew up a Kraken, for example, and you got parts from it. That's what Kara, or whatever her name is, the other monster, the hunter they added that uses monster DNA. But it'd been really interesting if you Makarov's lightning weapon, like he could get upgrades for it if he beats the Kraken, because the Kraken uses lightning. And so is flamethrower, from this character, from this monster, or if it's the Wraith, and like who uses stealth, and you could build up. It'd been cool if you could farm creatures like this, like Monster Hunter, and upgrade your weapons and upgrade the way they looked and change the stuff and make it like a first-person Monster Hunter and make Sheer, more of a hub world than just a map-based world. I would have liked to seen Evolve be that kind of game, a Monster Hunter on steroids with its first-person mechanics. That would have been cool, And still, you could have kept that aspect as a solo thing, and then the rest of the game as multiplayer as it is right now, monster versus hunters. And it'd been really cool to see that, play out that way. And Evolve, being a multiplayer online only focused game, took so many missteps in the wrong direction when it comes to like being legitimately no campaign. You know, I mean, even though there's this 5-story thing, the last cinema is the same whether you play monsters or hunters. It's the same thing. You don't know if you escaped, did they die, what happened. It's so that. And it goes to show you that Turtle Rock so believed in this games, its gameplay and its hunters, that people would just, oh man, Val's this awesome character. I love this character. But you don't know jack about them. And the game is such a serious overtone of a game. Like, these characters are not having a good time. You hear them say things, other than maybe Makarov, who's happy to be going into the fray. Most of them are just have this like, man, what are we doing here? We're in hell. They don't really, you don't feel like any kind of connection to them in that way. It's not like when you play Overwatch. Overwatch's characters are colorful and bombastic, and you do find out information about them. Battleborn's characters, again, all have a history and a background, which you find out, you know, and you have that thing. They're colorful and run the gamut of a broad spectrum. And they're multiplayer only games too, but you know, Overwatch is lacking a shit ton of content. And I don't really understand, again, Overwatch, you know, might have gotten a 10. I think Overwatch's gameplay is solid. You know, it's a fun game. But when I first saw the cinemas, you see like the angel rescuing somebody, and you see like all these characters came together to like fight, I guess, against whatever tyranny or evil, whatever's in the universe. But instead they just fight each other. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Like, don't show me a cinema where I feel like everyone's on this big team together, and they really are not. Overwatch is a weird game in that respect. And no offense to Overwatch fans. I like the game. I haven't picked it up yet because I'm not going to pay $60 for it. I don't even really want to pay $30 for it because there's not enough there. There's just not enough there, you know, in the game as far as content is concerned, right? But anyway, again, why I bring up Evolve is because Evolve was the early adapter of online only with this next gen consoles with the PS4 and Xbox One. And you're when I think about it, I'm like, you know, even though I still really like the game, and I do, I think they were kind of full of themselves and really thought, man, people are going to love our characters, and they're going to love this, and they're going to be willing to pay all this money to get all these new hunters and all this other stuff. Which is like, you give us 4 hunters, where Overwatch gives us like this whole roster of characters and Battleborn for free. Like, I don't have to pay anything. But why did you make us pay for every little thing you did? And either your budget from 2K was huge, like 120 mil or some crazy, I don't know what the amount was, where you had to figure out how can we pay them back. If they, you know, well, we'll use DLC to earn money to pay them back and keep doing stuff with this game. And then when the game pretty much was on the brink of no one playing, you put it out on the PC as Evolve Stage 2, and you changed some of the mechanics and different things, and it was a better game for it. I never played that version, and you didn't bother to put that on the console. You could have just done a big update. You could have done so much things different. And this is where companies out there, I want you to really pay attention to what Turtle Rock did, what Respawn Entertainment did with the first Titanfall. Besides the whole bait and switch thing they did, which I've already covered that, but they played it way too safe. Where Evolve put it out there like, no, you love our game, and you cannot make those mistakes as a company. You cannot make a multiplayer only game and not include cinemas, some kind of campaign that everyone can go through at the same time. You know, memorable upgrades or memorable weapons and memorable things. You can't do that. Playing as the monsters through their version of the campaign, which is just from the other side, makes no sense. The monsters are intelligent, but they don't really talk, you know. You're just playing a monster. And it would have been really cool if they had a mode where, like, you know, you can play the monster and you get to run up to the people who are still living there and you can attack them, and that's your story. Like, play it out from, like, we don't know what happened. Like when Sheer was first founded and these new monsters are trying to take back the planet. You could have done that end of the spectrum, showing cinemas where people are talking about we need to call in some help and this and that, and you see the monsters stalking these helpless humans, and then the hunters arrive, and then the monster, you know, in its whatever limited communication, maybe like communicating with others of its kind, you know, and basically and doing something, you know, even some of the Godzilla stuff, they had some broken monster lingo. So I mean, and that's what needed to happen. If you all were smart, Turtle Rock could have done something really cool, and just kept adding new hunters and new monsters instead of just doing reskins and things like that and changing some of the powers up. They did put new hunters in it and a couple new monsters, but they made you pay for everything. I mean, and I still can't believe that they did not one, but two season passes. It was like, Evolve is the game of how to not. Like, don't do this if you're trying to make a multiplayer, online-only game. This is why Brink failed in a lot of ways. Brink I still really like, because I'm a big fan of objective-based asymmetrical shooters, where your KD doesn't matter. That's not even important. And I love Brink because of the leveling and the customization of your characters and the customization of the weapons. I liked that. Brought me to where I wanted to play Brink more, and I liked the aesthetics of the environment, even though it was kind of cartoony in a way. Not the best looking game, obviously, but it was still a game that I appreciated. And again, but because they had this weird campaign against, you know, the Ark, and again, you never see anybody in the Ark except for the people fighting. It's the same thing with Evolve, you know. On the Ark, you're like running around like where the Resistance stays, and there's not a soul. There's not one human anywhere. I guess they're all evac to where the Ark has got limited space. It's just they just did missteps, and companies out there. If you watch this video, and you probably never will, but if you just happen to see the Gaming Roundtable, you cannot not just rely on a couple of things and then pray that and believe so wholeheartedly in your gameplay and your design that everyone is going to be playing Evolve or whatever game it is, you know, 6 months from now, a year, 2 years down the road, enough for you to create a sequel. Because now 2K Games a couple months back basically stated, we are not supporting Turtle Rock anymore. We're not going to support them. No more money's getting pumped into them. Evolve was a disaster. It failed. It sold really well and then died. It didn't make its money back or whatever. And 2K Turtle Rock's like, well, because we don't have the support, we can't do anything more for the game. So now the game is dead. You'll be lucky to find anybody online playing it. Occasionally I can get into a match, and I only check it out to see if anybody's really still playing the game. And most of the time they're not. This is again why I play against bots, because I can always, and because the bots are competent. But if you are a game company out there and you're trying to make a multiplayer online only, you cannot do what Evolve did, or the first Titanfall did, or the first Section 8 did, and have gameplay that's both solid, but that's all you have going for you. You know, you got to give people content. Sheer and the monsters and Evolve and the environment was so ripe for a really cool campaign that you could play through, like with, let's say, 3 of your friends, you know, or if you played solo, you pick one of the hunters and you get to see some of their backstory, you know. Or Evolve should have done like what Angry Joe said. It was a planet like where you saw the whole planet and you fought for territories, you know, like a metagame. Or Evolve should have done what I said to do, which is make it a Monster Hunter style game in first person. That would have been badass. Like, you kill monsters, you take their parts, you go back somewhere. This person, like Kara's there, Kayla, whatever her name is, she researches stuff for you. You get to improve your weapons. They look different as they go. That would have been cool. And have, like, you just create your hunter, and you say, I want to be an assault hunter, and then you make them look like whatever. That would have been cool, you know. And then or if not, just you could pick any of the hunters. Like you pick Makarov, and you could use any of the assault weapons that are in the game, any of them, and you could upgrade them because that's your class. That would have been very, very cool, and Evolve should have done something like that. People probably still would be playing those games. People ask me all the time, you like a lot of those Monster Hunter style games. You bring them, you like Token Kiwami is just great, I'm so looking forward to the sequel. I know I said that earlier, but man, that comes out the end of March. I am totally getting it. I'm going to pre-order that, pay it off, and get it done. And I love God Eater 2. Like, I've finally gotten a good grasp of how it works, and the game is just so amazing, And I love, and the appeal of those games to its audience is, even though you don't really level up your character per se, it's the lure of creating and crafting and making better and better and better and better and better and better gear. You're willing to farm the same thing over and over to get what you need because you want to get that really badass weapon. And it'd been cool if Evolve had done that and had where, I got to farm the Kraken because I got to get Makarov. I need this part from the thing to make my lightning gun like really badass, It's shooting like 3 kinds of purple and red lightning and doing some and you can shoot out a big lightning ball just like the Kraken. You could upgrade. That would have been cool, but they didn't think about that. And again, and again, I still think and encourage people to go out and buy Evolve. It's probably like $10 now. I'm not sure how much it runs, but because it is still a fun game to play in small doses. I played a couple hours today and I turned it off because it's like it started to feel like it was outstaying its welcome. But I still hold the game up for being. For me, when I first played it, I was like, wow, this game's crazy. I've never played a game like this. And I still get that feeling running around Sheer, trying to hunt down monsters and whatnot. It's just still a fun game. And but as a multiplayer focused only game, they forgot so much. And because they did that, the game ultimately failed in the end. If you're a developer out there and you want to make just a multiplayer focused shooter, you cannot, I repeat, cannot just bank on the strength of your gameplay and your environment and whatnot and your characters alone. There's got to be substance, because even though your characters might look cool, but there's no substance behind them. Your environment might look really awesome and really cool, but there's no substance if there's nothing that you don't know crap about it. Why, the planet Sheer, I don't know anything about it. I don't know when it was really founded or colonized. I don't know, even though you name the maps, like, what is these areas? What is this stuff lying around? What were they building here? What were they trying to do? You don't know none of that. It makes your awesome game world seem empty and unappealing. I don't want to run around in it because I'm like, I don't care. And that's just something that you had to do. And then, of course, even with the monsters in this game, and they're the showcase of the game, really. The designs are really awesome, but what do y'all do? We don't know. These monsters just came out of nowhere, and they can evolve really fast. That's all we know about them. You've been on Sheer for months, years maybe, and they just suddenly decided to start attacking back. They came out of left field. Like, nobody knows. Right? Like, nobody, there's nothing there. Like, where did they come from? And it's just, and that's something, if you're going to make a game that is multiplayer online only focused, you just can't make us, you got to give us that substance, man. That's all we ask, Evolve and the first Titanfall and Brink and games of like such games that were multiplayer focused only, even Overwatch, I'm putting it in this group. I want to know everything there is to know about that universe. I don't just want to be like, here's some new maps and a couple new characters, like ever so often. That doesn't do anything for me. Like, I need, where's my campaign? Where is it where these guys all got together to fight something or other? At least Battleborn has that over Overwatch. It actually has a campaign, and you can play as any character you desire, and at least it has that. And it is kind of Borderlands-ish because it's made by the same company. And but anyway, you've been watching the Gaming Roundtable. This was episode 13. And I'll be back with another episode, hopefully tomorrow. And I do appreciate you turning up, sitting down here today at the Gaming Roundtable. Hopefully I will be 100% tomorrow and not be about 80, which I am right now. I just wanted to do this subject about multiplayer online focused games because playing Evolved really made me think about it. And I hope that you enjoyed this episode. Please subscribe to my channel. Please tell your friends about the Gaming Roundtable. Tell them about the Juice Man. And please hit the like button. And I will see you on the next episode of the Gaming Roundtable. And as always, gamers, good gaming.